everyone, and welcome to Capes, Cows and Masks, the show where we uncover the world of soups and science fiction. I'm your host, Jake Hart. I'm a podcaster, a sound designer, and a writer for Fresh Take Hub. And as always, I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts.
Hi there, Tom Gapper, resident comic book shogun, Jonathan Hickman simp, and I can't think of anything that can top it. This is a trend that I think we're gonna have to let die because I can't think of anything better than I am a god. So
no, Tom, you were a Vin Diesel simp. Let's be honest.
Nothing is stronger than family.
This is part of the excitement and my anticipation for recording these podcasts now is that what is Tom going to say this week as he introduces himself?
Running out of ideas, man. It's been a long day today.
I am a god.
Oh.
You will bow beneath me. No. And I'm Dave Oscar. I am a writer, content creator, and editor over on Fresh Take Up.
As always, we're going to be breaking down the biggest stories that have hit the stands. But before we get into all of that, how have you guys been? What have you been up to? What have you been reading? What have you been watching? What are you excited to see that's coming out this week?
Oh, boy. Yeah, so, I mean, I've been good. I'm pretty hyped for the thing that's coming out this week for Black Widow.
Little indie film.
Yes, you might have heard of it. Just the first Marvel film in, forever. And we're seeing it Sunday, right? That's that.
We're seeing it together.
Seeing it together. That's happening.
United.
The boys are getting together. So yeah, pretty hyped for that. And in terms of reading, I have been reading Chip Zdarsky's The Invaders, which has been absolutely stellar. And I highly recommend everyone check that out. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
How about you, Dave? What have you been doing?
When you said the boys get together, all I could think of was that meme where it's like the old classic villains, you know, the like Electro and Green Goblin. I was like, oh, please, we need to make this happen. We need to get that picture and choose who's who. Yeah, also looking forward to going to see Marvel on the big screen this week. And of course, you know, using the most of Disney Plus apart from, you know, the films that are going to the big screen. With the films that have gone to the small screen. So I recently watched Luca as well, which again, talking about like animation and stuff like that. You know, please do go watch it. It's a gorgeous film, really nice. And yeah, of course, we've had lots of like nerdy stuff in terms of Loki and Bad Batch. And oh my God, that end credit scene from Loki. This will be out after like the newest one, so I don't know if it tops it, but that reveal, you know, it was one of my favorite ever reveals in Marvel. I absolutely loved it. I was cackling like a crazy person. My neighbors probably thought I was going into some other dimension or something. I don't know. But I absolutely loved it. Touche, Marvel. Touche.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. Like you text me, you know, there's a post-credit scene, so stay till the end. And you sent me those... a lot of emojis like, oh my God, and all that sort of thing. And I was like, oh my God, what's going to be? And then we get Richard E. Grant. I mean, come on. In the classic Loki outfit. That's incredible. And then, spoilers, people, for those who haven't seen episode 4 of Loki.
I mean, you put that a little bit late, but it's fine.
I mean...
If they haven't seen it by now, then...
If you're listening to this show, you've seen episode 4, or if we haven't spoiled it for you, the internet has spoiled it for you by now. So... yeah, Richard E. Grant, classic Loki was awesome.
Kid Loki.
Yeah, something we've all been, you know, speculating. We thought, you know, Lady Loki's going to play a part in somehow. Is Kid Loki? And obviously there he is. Boastful Loki. He looks incredible. And then, of course, the little cute alligator Loki, which I think is an homage to Frog Thor, I believe, because there is no comic source material that, you know, there was once an alligator Loki. So I think that's their way of sort of tipping the hat to Frog Thor.
I mean, hopefully that means we'll eventually get Frog Thor.
That's what I was thinking. I was like seeing it. I was like, oh, Tom is going to be very happy by what this might insinuate.
I mean, look, if anyone can pull off Frog Thor, it's either James Gunn or Taika Waititi. Like, let's be real here.
You're not wrong.
So.
You are not wrong at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if we do get it in this series, to be honest, in some way or form. Because again, like, would you just have like alligator Loki just there, like walking around for no reason at all? Maybe they will have some form of Spider-Verse style. This is where I come from. You know, you never
Where
know.
they're all animals.
No,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
would be even better if like somehow towards the finale, like Loki comes up with the thing where he's like, right, okay, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I need to call my brother for help. So he calls out to his brother for help, but he gets the wrong thought, and just the frog shows up, and he's just like, what? And then he just like slams into Kang or something, and then it's just like, whoa! I think that would be awesome.
Richard E. Grant really does show, I think, that because Marvel is one of the only studios that can do it, because they've got such a reputation now that they literally can go, yes, we'll have this person, please. And not to say that, like, you know, Richard E. Grant would be above Marvel, like, in the past or anything. You know, he loves to do all these, like, nerdy franchises and that kind of stuff. But it's more the kind of thing of, like, Richard E. Grant as classic Loki. And they're like, yes, you know, any other studio would be like, oh, no, that's too stupid. We can't do that. They can get away with it. And they can convince Richard E. Grant to do it. And nobody else could sell it with the finesse that he does. He has such a serious look on his face. That was what made me laugh so much, is that he was so committed to it. Like, he was there wearing that costume, like, I'm owning this. And I was just like, this is amazing. It was so good. And yeah, I can't wait to see what it becomes. I'm interested, again, this might have changed by, you know, the Thursday this comes out. But because we've been thrown for a loop so much by the trailers, especially like, say, Loki jumping out of that plane and stuff, you're like, oh, that was just some, you know, throwaway story from like the first episode. I wouldn't be surprised if that like President Loki stuff is from like the end of the series.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
I haven't forgotten about it. I've been waiting for it.
It
Oh
just
my
seems
god,
so-
you've just...
That has to
Yeah,
happen
it's-
next episode, surely.
Surely.
I-
Or is it going to end? No, because there's a follow-up where everyone's pointing the knives at him.
Yeah, but so I'm either thinking that in that world that they're in now, this kind of, you know, post-apocalyptic kind of thing, everyone's out for themselves, so that's why they point the knives at him and everything. So it could happen within the next 2 episodes. But if we're focused on this kind of Sylvie, Timekeepers, you know, Mobius, sorry.
Mordo?
Yeah,
Wait, what?
Sorry, again, too many characters with them again. So there's so many like storylines going on. I don't know. It just seems like that might be some weird side track to what is going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if that like came kind of like how they did with the whole jumping out of the plane moment. If that was kind of some like, oh, you thought this was like a part of the series? It's actually, you know, psych. It's, you know, it's the end credits or something for the next one or something like that.
I also have to say, man, I am absolutely loving the music on it.
Yes.
It is phenomenal. Like, most of the time, the music within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's fine. It does the job what it needs to do for the film, but I've never really felt like they've had powerful scores that just scream through the screen. You're like, oh, wow, this, you know, apart
Ludwig
from...
Göransson.
apart from Black Panther
Yeah.
and some of Silvestri's work with the Avengers. Like, obviously, the Avengers theme is very iconic. But I've always felt Marvel, you know, you could do better with the soundtracks. It sounds sometimes very generic. But this project, wow, man, like, and I believe it's Natalia Holt who does the music, which is fantastic to also see a female composer in there. And just in general, like, when you watch the credits of this, I'm really impressed with the amount of females they have working on this project. I think that's really important. So, yeah, I'm loving this show. Can't wait for the next 2 episodes.
Something that's right there as well is we just need to get Richard E. Grant and just place him like, you know, we've seen like the whole like, oh, let's go back in time and like revisit moments in the MCU. Can we just have Richard E. Grant in place of Tom Hiddleston in certain scenes? So we just see Chris Hemsworth literally like, you know, beating up an old man and he's just there like, oh, and he's just like, you shouldn't have taken the Tesseract. And he's just there like injured on the floor like, am I back? Oh, it'd be great.
But yeah, I am excited to see what Richard E. Grant will bring to the role next week.
Yes.
So,
Very.
We'll discuss it next on our next show. Well, no, actually, we will be doing a full season review in a couple of weeks when the show ends. So we'll give all our spoilery thoughts by the end of the series there. So looking forward to doing that. And we'll also be doing our Black Widow review. As you said, we're going to be seeing it this week. I can't wait. Tom, can you actually believe this will be the first time we've met in person?
I know, it's crazy.
Isn't it weird?
I know.
We've been doing this for 7 months together.
I don't know what you look like below the shoulders. It's crazy.
I know, it's kind of weird. I could be like Darth Maul. I got like weird crab legs.
For all I know. I mean, it's crazy. And so I'm excited for that. And it's always nice to see Dave as well.
Right. Let's get into the news then, because initially I was like, you know what, it's going to be a slow news week. There's not much happening. But upon reinspection, I was like, there's a few things to talk about. So let's get into that now.
Tear up page 1, run that photo instead.
Headline?
Spider-Man, hero or menace? Exclusive Daily Bugle photos.
All right, so the first story is the Suicide Squad. Now, recently we did talk about the Suicide Squad trailer that came out. So they've this month on is it Empire Magazine? Yes, it is Empire Magazine. They are the big special, the big spread, as you could call it, with 5 individual covers that Dave will be spending all his allowance that week on buying all 5 colors. And within there, they've got some information about the film that James Gunn has been talking about, but there's also 24 new images of this adorable bunch of delinquents. Now, a lot of these images we'd sort of have seen before in the trailer, but I'll sort of start with you, Dave, before we get into the second part of this story, which is James Gunn talking about the Peacemaker series, because there's some information that's been released on that. But what do you make of these new 24 images? Because we also got a couple of behind-the-scenes images with that as well.
Yeah, I think for people who aren't like us and just, freeze frame parts of the trailer, like, oh, what's that? What's this? It's great for that. And I think it just highlights what I love about what we've seen so far, and just James Gunn in general, is just, you can see like what a sort of practical looking film this is. Again, it's not relying, they're not just there on like a bunch of green screens. Obviously, when you do get the images of them like running away from like a collapsing building or something, obviously that's a frame from the film. But it's just, there's so many of the images are, in that bus when they're in the sort of like ruined, town, etc., with all the rubbish behind them, etc. It just really adds to the sort of like charm, I guess, of the film, that, this really is a sort of like down to earth, if you can call it that, in terms of how crazy the story is. But in terms of, classic filmmaking, in terms of you've got some real sort of like real sets here, you've got, visually striking characters, a big array of characters, and I think it really shows that off, and it really gives you a chance to sort of look at their costumes and see how their performances come across within just a few simple images. And that's what I think is great about them as well, is that, you can, just by looking at these certain characters, you can already get an idea of who they are, what they are, and you just get, freeze frames, I guess, of some of our favorite moments from the trailers, etc. So for me, seeing the image of Ratcatcher 2 with like the rat on her shoulder, like waving and stuff, it's just nice to have that, immortalized in a picture rather than just sort of when you're scrubbing through the trailer. And also just, kudos to Idris Elba for just looking so dapper in his like blue sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, like seafaring jacket and navy sort of beret. It looks good. So it looks good. I think you should carry that look more often. I think that's how you should show up to the premieres from now on. It looks good on him. So yeah, very impressed. And just,
looking at that image now, I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah, it looks great. So yeah, lot of fun images, and it really does. And I think the image of them, we haven't really seen this before, of them turning up on the beach. Again, it really just highlights what an oddball cast of characters this is. And even though maybe from silhouette you couldn't tell exactly who's who, definitely probably could with Peacemaker and King Shark. But again, it's just that they're all individually so different, and it's just quite an interesting image in that way, that you've got like a polka dot man there, then you've got like a giant, what looks like a street shark, if I didn't know this was a Suicide Squad film. Peacemaker just looking completely bizarre. And then, yeah, like Ratcatcher and what's Idris Elba's character called again? Bloodsport, that's it. So, yeah, looks very fun, and still can't wait for this film. And the fact that we have got Black Widow so close now also means that this is even closer, so I'm very excited.
Yes. I love when comic book movies release still images like this, because in a way, I can sort of make my own comic book out of these and just imagine the conversations they're having, which is kind of funny. But yeah, a lot of these images just scream how insane this film is going to be. Like I said when we reviewed the trailer, that this just looks like the ultimate blockbuster film in terms of scale, action, comedy, music, the likes of it. And even from these still images, you get a sense of all of that, of how big this project is, the scale of it, the amount of characters, all the different storylines that we're going to be following, and who's going to die, all that sort of thing as you start to try to piece the movie together. So yeah, it just screams that big, fun summer blockbuster, and I can't wait. I can't really put it any more beautifully than you did, Dave. But Tom, what do you make of these images?
I'm loving them for much the same reasons you guys are. It's just nice seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff. Like, they clearly had a lot of fun making this film. It really does show. And then the still images from yes, some of them we've already seen before, but it was just really nice just seeing all the cast there. And like you said, it's just such an odd choice of characters. Like, the first Suicide Squad film tried to take itself sort of a bit too seriously in that respect. James Gunn has clearly just gone, nah, mate, we've got Peacemaker already. We can't hold back now. And yeah, and I'm just going to say, because I am outraged that he has not been mentioned yet, but Peter Capaldi as the Thinker just continually looks great. And like, I'm getting like, it's tough because like I'm pretty sure all of these characters have an equal chance of dying like in about 5-10 minutes. But I just keep getting this feeling Capaldi does have a bit of a meaty role, and I'm looking forward to that because I love Capaldi, and it'll be nice seeing him in a big, huge Hollywood film. Like, so I'm excited for it. Maybe not as much as Dave. Like, I'm not going to be buying all the Empire issues just to collect the sets, but excited nonetheless. And I do think I've got a lot more hope for this film than I kind of did for the first one. So excited to see what comes.
And I know, like, I like that you mentioned like the behind the scenes stuff, because you always get it with these films that they always say, oh yeah, I had a great time on set, this X director was really good. But when the cast, and there's a story in today that we'll talk about regarding James Gunn, but whenever any of the cast involved in James Gunn's films talk about James Gunn and what he's like on set and the environment he builds on sets, you truly believe it. It's so genuine when they're talking about James Gunn. And I think the image of just him and the whole squad there, they're all just laughing. I like that his brother Sean Gunn has obviously got the mocap suit because he's playing Weasel, so that's funny. And they got like the big helicopter in the background. They just look like they're having the best time ever. And, when you're having the best time ever on a film set, most of the time that film is going to come out pretty good, I would say. So, like you said, he's so committed to these weird and kooky characters that he was like, you know what? I'm going to make a TV show about one of them. And we've already talked about it on this show, but there's some more information come out about the Peacemaker series. First of all, it will be premiering in January 2022, so not that far away. That will be premiering on HBO Max. We'll see what happens over here in the UK. We don't know yet. But yes, that will be coming out in January 2022. And James Gunn's sort of having an interview, and when he was asked why did he want to make a TV show about this particular character, it was actually Peacemaker's strict moral code and his struggle that he found fascinating. And this is what he had to say. Quote, Peacemaker has a clear set of ideals that I find really interesting. I want peace no matter how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it. Sounds like nonsense, but it also makes a lot of sense. And you see in John's performance how he does not feel good about it, something I thought was the seed of an entire 8-episode show. He then goes on to say that he represents a part of the world populace that is problematic to say the least, and puts him in a situation where he has to face the choices he's made throughout his life and the extremity of his views. End quote. Within the Empire magazine, it also says that James Gunn will be directing 5 out of those 8 episodes. So this truly is a James Gunn project. So Tom, I'll go to you first. What do you make of all James Gunn's comments on why he decided to do Peacemaker, and also the fact that it truly is like it feels more than just a spin-off of Suicide Squad if James Gunn's directing 5 out of 8 of these episodes. It feels like like a spiritual sequel or prequel, we don't know yet, to the Suicide Squad. But what do you make?
I mean, just reading Gunn's comments, I'm just like, you clearly just get the character, because that is just like, that is the best way to sum up Peacemaker. Just like, I want peace no matter how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it. That is the core of the character. I mean, his like his Watchmen antithesis is the comedian. Like, they're basically the same character. So, like, if you don't know the Peacemaker in the comics, you probably know comedian. It's practically the same thing. But arguably, Peacemaker is more hilarious because he also sees the ghost of his, like, I don't know if it's his, like, Nazi father or just, like, some Nazi figure, some old Nazi general or whatever, but he just sees this dead Nazi following him around constantly. And I'm just like, I hope that aspect makes it into, like, the show or even the film, because that would be hilarious. And yeah, I think from the sounds of it, it's definitely not just like some quick spin-off to just capitalize on what he, like, the fact that he like announced this was happening and they're already pretty far into like making it and all that before Suicide Squad has come out, clearly shows that James Gunn does have like a very particular story in mind. So yeah, I am excited to see it, whether it's a prequel or like a direct offshoot of like what happens in Suicide Squad. Like maybe what happens to Peacemaker and Suicide Squad leads him to whatever happens in the series. But I'm definitely excited to see it. And if Gunn is directing 5 of the 8 episodes, then I think it's in pretty safe hands, and I'm looking forward to it. But also kind of waiting to hear how we in the UK can watch it.
Yes.
Would love to know.
Damn you now, TV. You and your vagueness.
Yeah, just I don't give a shit about Now TV anymore. Just bring HBO Max to Europe and UK. Do you know what I mean? Just give us that service.
It's like,
Dave,
do they not want money?
I don't know. Dave, what do you think of James Gunn's comments on Peacemaker?
Yeah, I think one, it just shows the commitment, as Tom said, to the character, and just how impressive it is that he's doing that many episodes. How many directors can we think who are like film directors? And yes, we've had lots of overlap between television, especially within recent years. Big actors like, you know, Mahershala Ali and Ewan McGregor, etc., going into television. But then, you know, a director like this to come and direct 5 episodes or something, you know, not just one episode, like 5 episodes, and kind of really run the entire series is really commendable, especially because I think he's like, they're gearing up, as we know again from another news story, to film Guardians 3. So the fact that he's just there like, yeah, I'm going to finish up Suicide Squad, do Peacemaker, then go make Guardians. I'm just like, dude, like, you're entitled to a break, please. You know, so,
and the holiday special.
Yeah, so it's just so much. I guess maybe he had a lot of time on his hands or a lot of time to relax, possibly when he was like fired for a second, but Warner Brothers snatched him up pretty quickly when he had that happen. So he was, you know, writing, you know, probably in terms of Suicide Squad. So yeah, I think it's really impressive that he's doing that. It shows, it gives you a level of faith, I think, in the series, which I think he understands. If it was just the Peacemaker series without James Gunn, you know, executive producing or something like that, it kind of takes away from that feeling of, oh, well, you know, it's just the studio kind of meddling or just taking this character and doing what they want with it. You kind of have to have that personal voice, which I think is a reoccurring problem within Hollywood and a lot of narrative stories. When you lose the original creator, unless there's like this big sprawling history for you to tap into, or it's got to the stage in which the original creator's like, you know what, I've done my time, and everyone's like, yeah, we agree, you know, take your bow, go away. But, you know, with this, he can sort of like really introduce us to the series and sort of bring it in an effective way. So I think that is really impressive. The only thing I will say is probably I have always been a bit skeptical and worried about this series, because out of all the Suicide Squad characters, Peacemaker in a way is probably the one I'm least excited about. I think if they announced it as a series on its own, I'd be like, oh wow, that sounds cool, that sounds fun. But just when I look at John Cena within the film, I'm like, yeah, I don't really see me like going, yeah, I want a series about that. To me, from what you guys have said, he sounds like a kind of like Homelander type character, etc. And it's like, do you want to see that as like the protagonist of a series? It's a hard sell when you get something like that, when it's like an arsehole character. It's kind of hard to have them as your protagonist. It might work in the Suicide Squad because other people can react to what he's saying or doing.
I mean, he's not an arsehole. He just wants peace really badly.
But even in terms of what we've seen so far, I think that his jokes and stuff have been the ones that haven't landed the best for me from what we've seen in the Suicide Squad. In terms
I'm
of, like,
sorry, did you not hear the bag of dicks lands?
yeah, don't get me wrong. I loved like when they're on that bus and he's like wearing that like, you know, polo shirt that's like 2 sizes too small for him and all that kind of stuff. And I did like the joke as well, you know, where in like the latest one where they're making notes in like that lecture hall and stuff like that. But there's just a worry whenever I see that stuff of like, okay, this could be an inkling towards the kind of too crude, too stupid kind of humor. But again, it's all down to this film to sell me on that. So if I'm sold on it, I'm sure I'll be sold on the series then.
Yeah, I mean, it probably says more about me than you, Dave, about my sense of humor and how mature I am. Maybe that I...
True.
Again, in the context of something, I can watch something like that, like I have with other James Gunn stuff and Matthew Vaughn stuff as well, you know, where I've gone and watched it and be like, okay, that is stupid, but I love it. It's funny. So, you know, I am used to that. It's not that I'm against like potty humor or anything like that. It's just, it just needs to be done with the right level of, you know, seriousness, I guess.
I'm kind of with you there. Like, for example, I really, 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 really hate the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where Drax shouts, my nipples.
Yeah.
Because for me, that was just like, so you're just totally assassinating this character then. That's fine. It's not like I loved Drax in the comics anyway.
But he did give us horribilary batteries.
That was kind of funny. And also his, I too am incredibly humble.
You know, it's on the note of Drax, like, I actually kind of think that John Cena, in a way, is still... No, he's not as good as Dave Bautista. But he is sort of at the level of when Dave Bautista started, that he's got a lot of promise, and when he's got the right director behind him, you can get some really good stuff, especially comedic. I think John Cena has been really improving in the comedy films he's been doing, so I can see why James Gunn brought him on for the Suicide Squad. I think he can bounce well off all this different cast and kooky characters really well, as we've seen in the trailers. However... that my slight concern for the series is that I don't know if John Cena has enough gravitas, you could say, to carry an entire show as the lead. That is my only concern. I think he'll be absolutely brilliant in the Suicide Squad. I think the show Peacemaker sounds really interesting, and I'm so looking forward to diving into it. Because James Gunn's directing it, it really feels like it's another spawn of James Gunn. He is executive producer, director of 5 episodes. He's written all 8 episodes. So excited. I am slightly concerned, though, how John Cena will be able to carry the series on his own. That's not to say he can't do it. It's just a slight concern.
I think you'd have that with any character, though. Even if somebody said, oh, like, Harley Quinn's going to get her own series, and it's only going to be Harley.
That's Margot Robbie can, without a doubt, hold it. You can't.
Yeah. I'm
There's
not
no
saying,
comparison.
but what I'm saying is that I think that John Cena, performance-wise, can hold it. I think you're right in the sense, like, can he hold up a series? But there's still an element of, like, all we've heard about is Peacemaker and John Cena as Peacemaker holding up this series. So it's kind of like if you just heard that, like, Billy Butcher had his own spin-off from The Boys, you'd be like, well, I love that character and they're fantastic. And again, that's why I'm comparing to Harley Quinn, because you're like, yeah, they're great. But again, the animated series isn't just her. There's a whole array of characters that work with her that make that work. So you've got Poison Ivy, you've got the other villains, etc. So I think until we find out who Peacemaker's with, you need to know you've got like a good supporting cast with you. Because I think anytime you hear about a solo series or solo film, you're like, oh, well, you know, why are we just getting them? That sounds a bit weird. Kind of like Andor and the Obi-Wan show, etc. with Star Wars. As we then find out all these other characters that are going to be with them, you're like, oh, okay, I'm a bit more interested now because there's potential other characters you're interested in more than the lead, or that will sort of like bolster the lead character. So I think until we hear more about who's with him, that'll sort of change things up. But if you're going to have homework for this film, and this definitely goes to you, Jake, because we've said about it so many times. Watch Bumblebee and Blockers, both starring John Cena, both show his comedy chops, his action chops, and his ability to sort of play with genre, I suppose. And that gives me a lot more faith.
And apparently he also looks like Vin Diesel. They're brothers, apparently. So
it's more the family. You need to watch it for family. Come on. Family, Jake.
Oh my
Family.
God, when is the inevitable Fast and Furious Transformers crossover?
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Dave, so, we've speaking a lot about James Gunn. It feels like a very James Gunn episode. So why don't you take us into the next story?
Speaking of family, members of the James Gunn family. So Karen Gillan has teased a bonkers Nebula in Thor, the new film. It's based on Fantastic Four, starring Thor. No, it is Thor 4, also known as Thor: Love and Thunder. She specifies that James Gunn, the Russos, and Taika Waititi's unique contributions to the character have all been quite different. She took the time to highlight each director's contribution to the character, beginning with the one who started it all, James Gunn. She says, I think a lot of the reason the Nebula is the way she is because of James Gunn. He's the sort of creator of her. I think he really connected with the character. She remembers when they would do scenes, when it was her and Gamora, and he'd be like crying in the rehearsals. He's so invested, so it's largely down to him that Gillan would sort of attribute the success of the character. After 2 movies with Gunn, it was time for Gillan to and the Guardians cast to work with new directors, with the Russos. And she talks about how the cast was kind of skeptical and a bit scared about moving away from James Gunn. But with the Russos, she said they were amazing, and they kind of just really allowed them to bring their knowledge of the characters to their performances. They were so receptive to it. I would sort of be able to say to the Russos, I feel like if Thanos was in the scene, Nebula would be feeling very emotional right now if her father is there. And the Russos said, yep, and then they completely used that, and it's completely in the movie, which was really nice. So when she talks about Thor: Love and Thunder, she says that with Taika Waititi, Gillan's new descriptor for Nebula probably won't come as much of a surprise. She says that Taika really brought out the bonkers side. I think everyone is just really, really funny and bonkers and wild. Like, I don't think she's finding herself funny or being funny, but in her seriousness, I think we'll find her funny, and just the pure aggression that we've tapped into, which is from an interview that she did with Perry Neminoff on Collider, which was a great question from her as well. It's great journalism there, rather than just showing the what can you tell us about Thor: Love and Thunder? It was an interesting take to say you've got these really bold Marvel directors, both kind of kooky, got their own styles. How did they both approach this kooky, crazy character? So I think it was a really great question from her, and it's sort of is a good point to make, because Nebula is a character that has endured now all of these films, and I've loved her especially since Guardians Volume 2. So I'm really excited to see her now continue. I loved her in Infinity War and Endgame as well, and I think that this gives us a good glimpse as to potentially what we're going to get in Love and Thunder and Guardians 3, because I don't know, some people have speculated whether the Guardians just show up at the beginning of Thor: Love and Thunder, just drop off Thor somewhere and then just fly off. But from the way she's talking there, it sounds like they have quite a large role if she's got the time to be bonkers. I don't know, maybe it is just the one scene. But what do you guys think, Tom? What's your sort of reaction to it?
I know I have been getting the vibe that maybe the Guardians have got a bigger role than previously I may have thought. I definitely did enjoy reading through this interview, just because you can see just like how much Karen Gillan clearly loves the character and loves playing the character, and it's good to see as well that the Russos obviously respected the cast knowledge and was just like, look, you guys have been playing these characters, and doing them with James. You just do your thing, essentially. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Taika's version of a Nebula is going to be like, especially if it's a bit bonkers, as they say. I'm always up for that. But yeah, it's even though I am getting the vibe that maybe there's going to be more Guardians than we thought in the film. At the same time, you can still read through all the comments and all like the things and think, they're probably still just one or two scenes maybe at the beginning, and then they're done. I think either way, I'm going to be like happy though. I mean, the main reason I'm going into Thor: Love and Thunder is for Natalie Portman. Like, sorry, Guardians, but that aspect is what I'm most excited about. And also Christian Bale's God Butcher. So it is. It's really nice to hear all this. I'm excited to see what it's going to bring to the film, and I'm just generally excited for the film, to be honest. And I can't wait for it to be out.
Jake?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love Karen Gillan as an actress. I think she's absolutely phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to watching her upcoming film, Gunpowder Milkshake, which is why she was doing this interview in promotion to that. People, watch the trailer, people, because that looks amazing. I can't wait to watch that. And yeah, I've really enjoyed the character of Nebula progressing through the MCU. Like, when I saw her in the first Guardians, I was like, yeah, she's a cool character, but I was like, I think there's definitely more to this character. And then, as you mentioned, Dave, Volume 2 really dug deep into I go back to the scene between her and Gamora when they're fighting, and then she just screams, "I just wanted a sister." Oh, so powerful. Like, you really feel the genuine emotion coming from Karen Gillan there. So yeah, and like you, Dave, I think Perry Nemiroff is a fantastic journalist. She always asks really good questions. This is really good. Asking how all the different directors approach this character, and that the Russo brothers were on board with saying, just bring whatever you were doing there. Let's work together. Let's collaborate. And I just think it also speaks to the well-oiled machine of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that the fact that these characters can be passed on to different directors, but still keep their through line there, and consistent throughout. I think it's a real testament to what the MCU have achieved. And as I really like what she says about particularly Taika Waititi and working on Love and Thunder, that she says that she doesn't know if it's like personal levity. She's not herself being, ha-ha funny and making jokes. But which I've actually always found compelling about the character Nebula is when she's surrounded by the Guardians and they're, cracking the jokes and stuff like that. It's her seriousness, her contrast, her juxtaposition to these characters that makes her funny. Do you know what I mean? I always go to it's not ripe. That is the thing. She plays it so sincerely, but because of the setup we've had previously, which it was played as a joke, when it comes from her, it's serious, but it's still absolutely hilarious. So I really look forward to see what she does with Taika's style of humor. The deadpan style. I think that's going to be really, really funny. So yeah, I can't wait. And again, Karen Gillan's just an amazing actress. I also like in this interview, because it's a video interview you can see on YouTube, she calls Thanos Thanos.
I know, I thought that.
Which I found that funny.
Might just be the accent, but though if she said that in the film, it probably would have been thrown people a bit. Thankfully, she didn't. But
Thanos, who's he?
Yeah.
Who's that guy?
Some people might get confused with Thanos and be like, "Oh God, are we getting that?" That theory's coming back up. Like people are like, "Oh yeah, Ant-Man's turning up." So yeah, and for me as well, one of my favorite parts of Endgame, and this goes to show that probably two of the characters which are maybe the hardest to maybe connect with, especially just like facially, is just that moment where like Rocket and Nebula just like hold hands when she comes back and they've lost the Guardians. Like, man, that like choked me up in the cinema. I was just like, oh, like, so it goes to show, again, I'm like you, Jake, I love, Karen Gillan as an actress. So it goes to show, one, that she can like emote that much through all of that makeup, and with a CGI raccoon. I don't know if Sean Gunn was there actually holding her hand, but either way, it was a great moment that she can have that balance of comedy and drama and seriousness. So I think that this kind of fits that, is that she's going to have her more bonkers role within Love and Thunder, because that seems like the sort of moment for the Guardians to sort of wreak havoc and
let loose a bit.
Loose, yeah. Whereas Guardians 3 then might bring in back some of the drama and emotion, because I think from what James Gunn has said in the past is that Guardians 3 will sort of focus more on the female characters and sort of focus a lot on characters like Mantis, Gamora, and Nebula, which I'm excited for. So we might get some more of that there as well. So yeah, it's exciting stuff to come. But I think it does speak as well to, like I said, Taika's approach, that James Gunn and Taika are kind of like cut from the same cloth in some ways, and people could confuse their movies. And a lot of people said like, oh, Ragnarok, is kind of taking the success of Guardians, applying it to Thor, which is true. But then at the same time, you also look at Taika Waititi and James Gunn, and in a lot of ways, their humor and their style is also very different at the same time. So it's interesting in that aspect as well.
Yeah. No, I thought you were actually going to say another scene from Endgame, which I had in my head. But no, that scene with with Rocket, that's amazing. But for me, I was thinking of when her and Tony are playing, that little game on top of the stuff.
I love that scene.
And when she wins a round, he's like, "Done game, you won.
Yeah,
congratulations." And the look on her face, I'm just like,
she's just so happy.
She's so happy, but she's also selling something. She's like, I've never won anything before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because her life has
she's
been...
like, yes, she like respects him. I love it.
Yeah. And which, so good, so good. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this. I can't wait for Love and Thunder, Guardians 3, Gunpowder Milkshake, whatever Karen Gillan's in. Yeah, bring it on.
I am also very psyched for Gunpowder Milkshake. It looks so good.
Definitely. All right, so Tom, what do we got next?
Oh, you know what we got next. We got the power. It's a brand new Masters of the Universe Revelation trailer, uniting the heroes together to save the universe. And so the previous trailer was a bit more of a teaser one, just like showing off all the animation and all that. This one shows a bit more of a story to it, gives you a bit more of an idea of what's going on in the series, and it gives you your first proper listen to Mark Hamill as Skeletor, which is just, I love that. I love that so much. And Chris Woods' very first I have the power scream in that trailer is also great. Loving it. I thought it looked brilliant. The action looks amazing. Getting heavy Castlevania vibes from the animation, but as I said to Jake before, it's distinct enough that like they're not just like blatantly ripping off themselves. Looks like a strong series. I don't know. What do you guys think? What did you make of the trailer? Anything like jump at you?
Yeah, for me, it was just the sense of what we're getting ourselves into. So like you said, the first teaser trailer was just showcasing a lot of the animation and the action, and Bonnie Tyler's holding up for a hero to get us all pumped up for this series. But no, I really appreciate that this trailer was like, okay, now we're going to tell you what this actually is about. And I really like the idea that all of the magic in Eternia has gone. Like, what the hell? Like, the very premise, this magical place that's filled with crazy beings and everything's powered by magic in some way. The fact that the magic has dried up in some way, you see, like, the people with the cups, like, trying to get some sort of magic of some kind. Magic liquid. I don't know what you do with that. So, yeah, that's really intriguing. Where's He-Man been? He seems to be like a rogue, like some sort of nomad just traveling Eternia. Teela seems to be really taking, front and center here. Like, the fact that she's never been associated with magic, and she's like, but now you've got to save Eternia. You've got to save magic. And I think from the original series, it was always sort of set up that Teela would become like the new sorceress once the sorceress would maybe pass on the mantle. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do with this. Another thing that jumped out for me was the opening narration from Lena Headey, who voices Evil Lynn. I mean, Lena Headey is just a wonderful actress from many, many different projects, but you can't deny that she just plays evil so good. She's got such a powerful presence in her voice alone, so really looking forward to seeing her there. And Tom, as you said, the god of destruction. Yes. Mark Hamill is just perfect. Perfect to play Skeletor. But Dave, what do you think? Are you sold on this yet, or are you still unsure?
Do you understand Camp Fu?
I think, this sold me a lot more. I think not that the last trailer didn't sell me, but it kind of, just saw, okay, is this just an action series? But, again, I'm kind of like, as much as I love animation and action and all kooky stuff, the story is really where, most people, are grabbed by, like, do I want to see this? And I think that, now we've got some sort of context to it. It sort of drew me in a bit more. Like Tom said, it did give me very much like Castlevania kind of vibes. And I think the great thing about that series is that it takes the time with the characters to go, okay, let's have like 15 minutes of just talking and chatting and that kind of stuff. And that's why I was quite impressed with here, is that it does seem to sort of take its time, take itself seriously, have these meaningful conversations. The script seems, quite fleshed out and clever, rather than just loads of like quippy one-liners and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I was just interested to hear, more about this world. It did make me laugh. This isn't a criticism, but just the idea that they did keep saying magic kind of thing. It just makes me think of, where like Marge comes in and The Simpsons like, will you guys stop saying gummy so much? It's just like when they're just like, the magic has gone and now the magic is here. We must get the magic. And when the magic is back, we will use the magic. And it just made me laugh. Especially because a lot of times Hollywood and stuff will be like, oh, let's use, the power. They try and like stay away from magic because it's quite like childish or whatever. So, I do like that they're embracing that in a way. Again, I mentioned this so much, but like I'm just going to bring it up again because it was a Netflix show and it did use a similar cast. But, it's still even kind of still the Dark Crystal vibes because Lena Headey was in that show. And it goes to show her variety. There, she played more of a good character. And she was in like Fighting With My Family. She played quite a different character there. So I think once I did see her, she's like on sort of like a DVD cover for one of those rip-off films you get in Tesco, and it was this kind of Game of Thrones rip-off. And he thought, oh no, like Lena Headey don't like just go doing like Cersei in every film and TV show you're in. So when I was hearing this again, there was just something about like her voice and the way she was playing it would sound very different to me. It sounded like she was playing a different character, but still evil, but not just kind of playing the similar character she's done in the past. Again, I don't know too much about these characters, but I think Sarah Michelle Gellar is like a fantastic choice as well. Not that I can say, oh yeah, she's great as Teela, because I don't really know who Teela is, but she's like a great voice actress and a great actress in general, I think, when she's given the right content. So yeah, I thought that she worked really well in sort of like elevating the content. And yeah, to go back to the Dark Crystal comparison, Mark Hamill was in that. And again, rather than just all the time being like, oh, let's just bring in Joker or just have a Joker level voice, there he was playing like a mad scientist and he had this kind of like scientist voice, but still had that element of like evil laughing and that kind of stuff. And here it does seem like he's bringing something new to it. But at the end of the day, it's Mark Hamill. I'm not going to complain. He's absolutely amazing. So yeah, I loved some of the stuff we saw here. A lot of the visuals look great. Not sure about He-Man when he's like a mortal man. He looked a bit strange to me. But
Prince Adam.
Yeah. His design was like, I was like, I know even in the cartoon originally, but he still looked somewhat like He-Man, but here he looked very like, I was like, oh.
Yeah, well, they're trying to differentiate more between Prince Adam and He-Man, because in the original,
I like it, yeah. The original, it's the same guy, just got like a pink shirt.
Yeah, it looks weird when he's dressed in that. It doesn't like suit him.
And everyone's wondering, Prince Adam and He-Man are never in the same room together. I wonder why.
Yeah, they have the same haircut as well.
I'll be really interested to know what the episode length is of this show, because they confirmed part 1 will be 5 episodes, and then part 2, which unsure if it's going to be released this year or next year, that will have 5 episodes as well. So not a lot of episodes, so I'll be really interested to see what the episode length will be. I'm hoping for like a good meaty
40 minutes,
45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
I think it makes sense from the quality as well, because something compared to Castlevania is the Castlevania sometimes can look a bit cheap, or like they cut corners or things just darting across screen, like sometimes like you get with anime and stuff. Whereas this, I felt it was a very fluid, detailed animation. It didn't look like they were cutting corners, even with the dialogue.
It's a trailer, so they're only going to show you the best bits.
Yeah, no, but I mean, just even in terms of its style, they haven't gone with a kind of like, let's give this a more simplistic style. So when you look at something like Castlevania, even in the most actiony of scenes, you can see that they're using very similar backdrops, or they're just cutting corners in some way or form. But this looks so bright, so colorful, so bold and detailed in its designs. And just even the talking scenes, it doesn't look like they're kind of like just flapping mouths on a still image. So I think that they've gone to that level of detail, which has maybe then shrunk the episodes, but made the quality a lot better, which I'm more in favor of.
Awesome. So yeah, when's that coming out again? 23rd of July.
Yes, so very, very soon. Just a couple of weeks. Basically, it comes out on payday. That means something. I don't know what it means, but it means something.
it means you're going to buy the He-Man omnibuses from Amazon.
Or he's just going to buy a bunch of action figures, a bunch of merch. Like, yeah.
I'll make my own He-Man stories.
The new ones are out, and I can't deny I'm just like, oh, but that Skeletor one does look fucking cool.
You got to at least get the Skeletor one. I mean, Skeletor.
I think so. Yeah, I think I got.
Then if you buy Skeletor, do you not have to buy like the fortress and everything to put him into?
Well, you got to buy the fortress, Dave. Obviously,
What,
that goes
Castle
without saying.
Grayskull? Have you seen the price of that? Fucking hell! Like, we're talking a few £100 here for Castle Grayskull that you have to build yourself. It's awesome, but I don't have that money right now.
That's what Tom is saying. He's just like, well, you have to buy the fortress, and and you have to buy He-Man to go into the fortress to fight Skeletor, and then of course you have to buy,
Guys,
it just keeps
you're
going
burning
on.
me dry here. Like, come on.
Jake, otherwise the story won't make sense if you're missing all these characters. Or why is He-Man just randomly showing up at Skeletor's castle? Like, why is he there? What's the motivation?
You know what? You're absolutely right.
Exactly.
So I'll see if I can scrap a few £100 to buy the whole set.
This is what Tom was like as a child. He's just like to his family, just like, this doesn't make sense. If I've got Batman, I've got Robin, they've got to have
Just like,
opposite them.
Mother, father, it doesn't make sense for the plot. And they're just like, what are you on about? It's like, how can the Joker have kidnapped Robin if I don't have a Robin?
No joke. I've probably had discussions like that with my parents before.
I can't have Harley Quinn without the Poison Ivy action figure because I can't recreate that episode from the animated series.
Which animated series are you talking about,
Hey.
Dave?
I'm talking about Girls Night Out or whatever it's called, where like that came from. So
Right. Okay. I was thinking you were talking about the Harley Quinn series. I was like, that's a very
like,
different.
whoa.
Well, if Tom was, like a child when that's coming out, Tom has aged significantly since it was released.
That's what having a career in law does to you boys. It's
He's actually,
I'm actually
a variant.
12.
He's been time traveling. He's been traveling through time.
All right then. So I think that's all I have to say about this, unless you guys have anything else before we take a break.
by the power of Grayskull. That's all I had.
On July 23rd, we will all have the power.
Yes.
So yeah, we're just going to take a quick break then, and we'll be back with our main story.
It's lonely at the top. The lizard! He always has a tale to tell. Well, if it isn't Venom, a dentist's worst nightmare. Let me give you a hand. Sorry, Dr. Octopus, wrong floor. I was looking for houseware.
Web Racer Spider-Man and action figures sold separately.
Okay, and we're back for our main topic now, and boy, this one has caused up a stir online, and we're not going to talk about that other story related to Star Wars, but there's been a very controversial week regarding toys, merchandise, spoilers, and amongst other things. But we're going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. So we got some new merch reveal. We got some Funko Pop, some action figures revealing Spider-Man's new costume. We also got some Lego sets that reveal that Doctor Strange is going to be in it. He also has some weird shovel that Dave pointed out that he's the sorcerer gravedigger now. So, yeah, plenty of cool merch to be buying, in anticipation for this film. That's obviously a big part of the business, is to sell these toys. That's another way of promoting the film in itself. But there is the question about, do these toys release info too early to maybe what the studio wants to release? The fact that people have been saying we haven't even seen an official image, let alone a trailer from No Way Home, and yet we're getting reveals through toys, through Lego sets and all that. So, Dave, I'll go to you first. I know that you like your Lego sets and you like your Funkos and stuff like that, but what do you make about the whole situation? And on a more fun note, what do you think of the toys?
I don't think it's too much of an issue. Obviously, people are used to this kind of stuff within the industry, and a lot of people will love it because one example comes to mind was, I think, the Thor's axe that was kind of like revealed via a toy and all that kind of stuff, and people were already like, oh, look at the wood, it looks like, oh, maybe it's like Groot, it looks like, it's like, looks like the twigs and branches that Groot has and everything like that. So people were right about that. But again, it's not like I was watching Avengers Infinity War going, oh man, I wish I wasn't spoiled that by the toys. It wasn't a big thing. Obviously, if there was a toy of Cap there with the hammer or something, then you would have been like, oh man, that would have been such a great, shock or reveal. But, so yeah, I think usually they know how things work. They're pretty smart about it. Like, I think the Lego ones we've had in the past, again, was like Avengers base or campus or whatever, attacked by the Black Order and stuff. So it's a thing of like, oh, well, we knew the Black Order were in this. We know there's going to be some form of attack on the Avengers, headquarters, etc. I think that was even maybe before Infinity War. So again, that wasn't even actually true because it didn't happen in the film. And even if you are talking about Endgame, that place is blown to smithereens. So they're not really attacking the base. Really, there's no fight on the actual Avengers campus. So I keep saying that's the actual like Disney World that they recently opened. I can't remember what is it actually called. I don't know, Avengers.
I think it is the Avengers HQ.
Yeah. But Avengers Campus, I think, is the actual place they've opened in Disneyland. But still, yeah. So yeah, it's just a part of the industry, isn't it? It's fun when it does happen. It gives you like cool like glimpses of the characters and stuff, but it's nothing ever too spoilerific because, again, you're not going to have big spoilers within a toy. I think we've seen like now, isn't it? Oh, who was it? Didn't you show me the other day? Oh yeah, isn't there actually a Lego set of like Thor and Korg and everything like that?
Yeah.
From again, they weren't going to release that as a Lego set. You need to see the film to like be like, oh my god, that's hilarious, and then later do it. So again, the marketing teams, the story team, a lot of them I think will be like, right, toys. Here's the stuff you can make toys out of. Here's the stuff we're going to keep to ourselves, kind of stuff. So yeah, it's very much given. I think what we've seen is a mix of like, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. I think it's interesting that the Lego set especially is, so focused on Doctor Strange in terms of like being in his house or whatever. And so you get more of an impression of like, oh, Spider-Man meets up with, the Doctor Strange characters and in his world, rather than what we first assumed of being like Doctor Strange showing up and speaking to Peter Parker and that kind of stuff. It seems like Sony and Marvel are kind of being like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if Peter, delves into the world of Doctor Strange and they're there in this like magic house and he has like a magic suit and everything. So that's not quite what I expected to happen. I thought it was just going to be a more kind of like Infinity War situation, like Strange shows up to sort of explain what's happening and, say that he needs Peter's help or something like that. So, yeah, it is giving us a few more clues that way. Makes me maybe a bit more concerned. I'm like, right, is this a Spider-Man film? Because, again, that goes back to my problems with MCU Spider-Man of being like Spider-Man plus Iron Man, that kind of stuff. So, again, it doesn't really seem Spider-Man-y, despite the fact that, the animated series had like crossovers with Doctor Strange and stuff like that still. It's a bit shame that you sort of lose that in what could be a kind of Spider-Verse film. And then as far as the Funkos and everything like that, again, I suppose the variations of the suit have become a big thing. But it does make me like miss the days of like, why can't we just have the one suit? Again, go back to the Raimi days. What was wrong with just the one suit? Why, again, I know toys, but just sell the toys. You don't have to have it in the film. And I'll admit like that one, which is like the black and gold. That kind of reminds me again of where we were talking recently about like how you used to have like silver Batman. It's like, why have we got this Batman? There's no like essence of this in anything TV film wise, but it kind of harkens back to like, again, Spider-Man, the animated series, where you had the metal Spider-Man that was like a part of the Spider-Verse story, etc. So something about that like reminded me of that. But yeah, I'm not too sure about this whole like magic web shooters and costume. The costume to me looks a bit too like the Iron Spider one, and I've got to be honest, like one of my friends, Richie, like loves the Iron Spider suit, like really wanted it before the film came out and everything. I've never been a big fan of it. I do think it looks cool when it's like the red and gold, but I wasn't a big fan when they then brought it back for Far From Home. I was like, no, this isn't the Spider-Man costume. Get this out of here, kind of thing. I don't mind it in Avengers because it kind of makes practical sense. But again, it seems to me that they're kind of going with this like, oh, it's gold and red and blue again, you know. And I'm like, no, that's not Spider-Man. Like, what's wrong with his costume? Just bring in the one from Homecoming. There's nothing wrong with that costume. The black one, even, I'm a bit like, that doesn't look like Spider-Man. But if you want to differentiate
wasn't Spider-Man,
from the
it
others,
was Night Monkey.
yeah, no, I'm on about the red and black that he designs himself at the end. That one is fine. It's cool. It looks like classic Spider-Man. But again, just have the red and blue. What's wrong with that? You know, so yeah, I would prefer to see, you know, if we're gonna get three Spider-Men in their original costumes,
or
not
women.
Like, yeah, but I'm saying if we're gonna have Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield in their costumes from those films, and then Tom Holland, they're like, hey, I'm wearing this like red and gold magic one. It's like, well, that's not your costume. That's just some other, you know, random one. So I don't know. Yeah, I very precious, I suppose, when it comes to Spider-Man costumes, but that's the only big concerns I have.
No, I in regards to that aspect, I agree wholeheartedly with you, Dave. I was actually, funnily speaking with somebody else today, that I've really enjoyed what the MCU have done with the Spidey, that with Tom Holland and stuff. I've enjoyed the films. I've enjoyed him being in the Team Up Avengers films. However, there is a part of me that's like, can we take it back to being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? I've spoke about this on the show before, like you, it does concern me about showing with all that he's in the Sanctum Sanctorum and he's playing around with all this magic. His suit and the Funko, you know, look, I don't know, looks like some weird magic portal tech thing. Like, if you look carefully, you've got like very similar, if not the same runes, I should say, of Doctor Strange, when he does the magic stuff. So I'm a bit like, okay, that's interesting that he's got some sort of device that maybe that's how he's going back and forth between the multiverses or something like that. It's a very MCU thing to do, how they've already had like, oh yeah, he has this suit that can deploy a parachute and do all this, and it like has digital thing. And it's a very kind of like, oh, you'll be able to like web a portal to something or something like that. Yeah, that's what I mean. And look, I get it. Like, I get they need to sell toys, but I think we're in a different time now. Like, when you're talking about the weird different variations of Batman, like, that was a time where they just made toys to sell the bloody toys. You know, make whatever you can to sell. While now it's a lot more specific to what we're actually seeing on screen. So the action figures and the Funko Pops, we're seeing that on screen, and I have the same concern at you. I'm like, can we stop with these high-tech suits thing? Like, I get you wanted to have him as like an Iron Man Jr., but for me, that's not who Spider-Man is. That's not who Peter Parker is. He's intelligent. He makes his own suits, but not to this sort of high-tech and caliber and stuff like that. I want to see a suit that when he's fighting, it gets ripped. Do you know what I mean? Like it adds more impact to me. So, yeah, I'm not sure. And regards to people complaining about the spoiler stuff, like, you know, I think they forget that these people running these corporations are very intelligent. They get paid a lot of money for a reason. Like, they know what's a spoiler, what not's a spoiler, the marketing, the scheduling. They've planned all this out for months. Do you know what I mean? Everything's been, you know, signed off by Disney and all that sort of likes. They know exactly what to release at the right time and all these sort of things. So it's not spoilery, because they wouldn't just go ahead, like you said, Dave, and just release a Funko Pop of Captain Holy Mjolnir. You know, they didn't. They waited quite a few months, actually, after the film had released before they did that. So they're not going to do that for this film. They're just going to give you the stuff that most people already knew were going to be in there. Now, have they officially confirmed Doctor Strange is in Spider-Man No Way Home? I think they have. So showing Doctor Strange on a Funko Pop or a Lego is not a spoiler. It's public knowledge. You know, for people like us who dig into this, we already knew that. For the common audience, you know, the general audience who don't pay attention to this, guess what? They also don't pay attention to toy releases most of the time.
I was going to say that.
They don't care what's shown on a Lego box. Do you know what I mean? They're just going to turn up to the film and go, oh, Doctor Strange's in this. Awesome. You know, so they're going to be surprised, which is the majority of the audience. And then on the positive side, it's toys, man. The kids love it. You got to promote this film. And it's just cool to have all these things to get kids excited for this film coming out. It's like, oh my God, am I going to be able to play with the thing that I'm about to see on the thing? Like, it's just great for kids. And also with the Lego set as well, Lego have this habit of just making sets, you know, that don't necessarily, like with the Funkos and action figures, that's going to be in the movie. But with Lego, you know, sometimes they just have fun with these sets that's not necessarily going to be in the movie itself. So that's my two cents on it. But Tom, what do you make about all this?
I mean, I kind of get a bit low-key annoyed about like these toy releases. Not like, as you said, they never really give any like huge things away. Like you know, like the Cap raising Mjolnir thing. You're right, but at the same time, it does usually give things away that I would prefer to see for the first time, either in a trailer or in the movie itself. Good example is actually the Iron Spider outfit. Like they kind of released several toys before like Infinity War came out that showed like all the various like aspects of that suit right down to like the forearms. Now I would have loved to have just seen that for the first time either in the trailer or in the movie. Instead it was just like, and obviously like I wasn't looking out for toy releases, but because I'm constantly on the internet looking at comic book related things, these things get spammed because people talk about them all the time. It makes its way to me and then I'm like, God damn it. But I do also appreciate that it's kind of just part and parcel with the industry now. It always has been. You kind of just have to accept it a little bit and just hope that they never do actually spoil anything huge. More so now with the Spider-Man like pictures of the merch. I'm kind of with you guys. Like one thing that really annoys me, like I understand why the MCU, when they brought in Spider-Man, decided to go, right, we're not going to show you Uncle Ben again and like the Spider-Man origin again, because like you have seen two different variations quite close together, and now we're giving you a third new Spider-Man quite soon off Andrew Garfield's run. It made sense. What I don't like though is how they've kind of like replaced the whole Uncle Ben of it with Tony, but doing that has like taken Spider-Man out of his working class roots, because he is typically a very working class hero. That's part of the appeal to him, that he is just like this, you know, like the kid you would think like wouldn't really succeed. You know, oh sure, he's like very smart and everything, but because of his background, you're like, he's going to struggle through life. And that is the thing. I've never felt like Tom Holland's Spider-Man has truly struggled. And I feel like, sure, don't show us Uncle Ben again. Don't go through the Spider-Man origin again. But you've got to give us something on Uncle Ben, because like the whole Tony thing, if they're trying to use that as a surrogate for the Uncle Ben part of Spider-Man, it completely misses the point, which is the fact that Peter Parker, Spider-Man, could have saved his uncle. There's nothing he could have done about Tony. Tony knew what he was doing. Strange knew that was the only way they could win. So whilst, yeah, he's going to be sad about Tony's death, that's not going to drive him the same way Uncle Ben's did, because like he does find out later, it's the same in the Tobey Maguire films as it is in the comics, in the Ultimate Edition, Ultimate Spider-Man or regular Spider-Man. He could have saved his Uncle Ben. And I think like this whole aspect of making like Tony the new Uncle Ben, I don't like it. And I don't like how it's coming out in the suits as well, because like you guys, I just want to see normal suits that he's made himself that like rip and stuff. I get that obviously if he's going to be multiverse jumping, he's going to have a special suit for that. What I'm mainly hoping is that maybe all these different suit variations we're seeing in the toys are different Spider-Men. Because to be honest, I wouldn't actually mind if they brought in multiple Spider-Men, but not Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, if they were just like, here's some brand new crazy Spider-Man you've never seen before.
Or even just the spider monkey kind of stuff of just like their suits that appear throughout the film, but when he meets up with the other Spider-Man or you get the big finale, he's back to his original suit. I would be fine with it if they did that. I think it's just, you don't want to rob us of that image of the three Spider-Men in the three classic suits. It's, you know, I think that's if they use them throughout the film and then like he goes back to that one, I'll be fine with that. But
here's like one thing, like I think I would actually be okay with if this next film does it, is if, you know, throughout it, Spidey's having a really bad time, and like maybe it's like in the sort of before the final act when he's like the hero's at his lowest type thing, and maybe he's like lost in the multiverse or whatever, and maybe he comes across a different Uncle Ben from a different universe, has a nice like sort of chat with him, and then that kind of like helps raise him up to like, okay, go into the final act, save the day, be the hero. And then it gives you a nice Uncle Ben moment, reaffirms that character is still a huge part of Spidey's motivation. And I think it does it in a way that it's not like, oh, we're just like rushing in a fucking Uncle Ben cameo or whatever. I don't know, like I may be going a bit too deep into the film than more about like the toys itself, but just the toys have spawned this. Because especially off the points you made about just like, I want him to just have a Spider-Man costume, not with any bells and whistles.
I think it's because he's the most merchandisable character, because he is like the kind of Batman of Marvel, as I've said before, that's why this is part and parcel with that, is that they're like, right, this is the character that sells the most. He sells pencil cases, t-shirts, all sorts of things. That then the films have become very much a vehicle for that. You know, again, it's not like the older films where they're like, oh, let's literally have Spider-Man in his spider car, like you see like being sold. But these films would do something like that. And I think that's the problem, is that they've become a vehicle for the merchandise, and they're the most MCU toy-driven films. It's not, again, you don't see like Cap there and then like a toy come out of like Captain America and his, you know, amazing tank, and, you know, like it's Ant-Man and the Wasp. There's nothing in there that seems to be that's been made for a toy, whereas this very much seems like a sort of very consumerism, capitalist kind of like approach to Spidey.
I will say though, we didn't know. I think, did we know that J.K. Simmons was going to be in No Way Home?
Yeah, he was confirmed to come back. But...
He was confirmed. I wasn't, but still, it was just nice to see the action figure, and I just like that they've made an action figure of him, like the pose of the action figure as well, with his finger up in the air.
Please tell me there's a scene, if there's multiverse, please tell me there's a scene where there's like two versions of Jonah and they argue with each other.
Oh, they can be the ones that point at each other.
Yes.
Yes.
Or you could kind of like get like an action figure of Spidey like on the floor, like with his mask off or something, like holding his eye, and then just Jonah above him, like, just, like beating the crap out of him.
You need to think, Peter.
Think, Peter. So good. Yeah, but no, and just his face. Look at him. He's just so angry in his face. I've got to get that figure. It's the most, like, the ironic thing about that, he is an action figure, yet he probably comes with like a laptop and a pen. Like, yeah, but he can make an email. That's about as action as he goes.
It goes to show that one of the things I'm most excited about this film is J. Jonah Jameson. So it doesn't speak well for Spidey and all that kind of stuff.
Give me Spider-Man!
Yeah, like I'm kind of like low-key more excited for America Chavez. Oh wait, no, she's showing up in...
Is that... No,
sorry, she's showing up Multiverse of Madness.
That's in Doctor Strange.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I keep because everyone's doing multiverse stuff now, and it's all connected.
Do you know what's funny with the whole multiverse you said, though, about how he could like have like an Uncle Ben moment and everything like that, is that I was just thinking of the scene that played in my head as you were saying about like Tony's sacrifice not syncing up right with Peter. Is what makes me laugh in that film in Endgame is when like he goes up to him and he's just like, Mr. Stark, and I'm like, dude, get out of the way. His like wife is right there, and she literally comes along and just shoves him out of the way. Like, get out of the way.
Fuck out.
Like, yeah, like he has a daughter, man. Like, show some respect. Like, you know, you were just some kid that, like, you know, I know you had this father-son bond, but
She also gives him like a really like condescending pat, like, right,
Yeah,
move out the way. Now,
exactly,
like,
yeah, and like give them some space. Like, you know, it just annoys me to some level. Like, it actually makes me angry to think that he's like, I am like his most important person. I have to say goodbye. It's like, no, Tom Holland.
He might have just been the closest one there, Dave, though. You know?
Yeah.
He might just be like, Pepper's going to take another 30 seconds to get over here. Mr. Stark, we won. What's
Exactly.
that? Yeah, okay, Pepper.
Exactly. It just seems like he's milking the moment, but I'm just imagining then this kind of chauvinistic Spider-Man then going through the multiverse and just walking into Spider-Man 1, seeing Ben dying on the floor and this like teary Tobey Maguire like over him like, Uncle Ben, and then like Tom Holland just walking over being like, Uncle Ben, you okay? And he's like, dude, get out of the way. And he's just like, I just want your Uncle Ben moment. Can I just share in this moment? And like Uncle Ben's like,
Mine wasn't as fulfilling.
you didn't even get to see mine.
We barely mentioned his name.
He's like on the side of his face, like, come on, we could both have it. And like Uncle Ben's just there, like, who's this kid?
That's actually, have they mentioned his name? I think Aunt May mentions it once. his
I
name?
think the only
Or
thing
does
they-
he ever get named?
No, the only thing he has is when he says about, I think in the first film, they say something like, oh, he's like, May can't find out, not after everything she's been through. I think like that's the only
I
thing
think
they've
that's the
really
only
said.
reference, yeah.
And again, that scene where like he lifts the thing and he sees his reflection in the water, such a missed opportunity.
See what I
for
mean?
having-
They're removing the working class elements from Spider-Man to make him some other capitalist dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Down with
Well,
the
anyway, I
system.
feel as if we've been ragging on Spidey a bit too much now. Like, no, I
Bring
don't
on
want to.
Spider-Verse 2.
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like. Well, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I don't want to make it seem like I hate the MCU Spider-Man. I do really enjoy Tom Holland's Spider-Man and enjoy the films he's been in, but there's just some things about it that don't sit well with me as a Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, it's just not my Spidey.
Not my Spider-Man.
He's too woke. I don't like this woke Spider-Man.
Oh god,
I'm
let's
joking.
not again.
Could you
joking.
imagine?
Let's not get
if
into
people
that.
tried to say Spider-Man was getting too woke. I would just be like, right, let me. I've genuinely seen some people like unironically like and genuinely mean it when they say X-Men has gotten too woke, and I'm like, right, seriously, like of all the ones you had to pick, you had to pick X-Men.
Let's not go there because I hate that word so much. But anyway, let's move on then. So we're going to take another quick break and we'll be back with your weekly comic pull list.
Well, after X-Men hit at the box office, all the studios started buying up every comic property they could get their dirty little hands on.
Okay, so I got some interesting picks this week. Very interesting picks. So let's start with DC this week. Yeah, why don't we do that? So starting off, we've got Swamp Thing, issue 5. So this is coming out from the writer Ram V, who is a great writer. He's currently writing The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. He's doing some work. I believe he's going to be involved in the next wave of Spider-Man comics as well. I think he's definitely an up-and-coming name, and his Swamp Thing's been incredible. I mean, Swamp Thing's always amazing anyway, so pick that up. Staying with DC then, we've got Wonder Girl, issue 2, written by Joel Jones. So the first issue definitely had me hooked. I'm loving Yara, to be honest. I just love the artwork more than anything. I mean, the writing is stellar, but the artwork is also gorgeous, and the cover art for this is just beautiful as well. Joel Jones also did the cover art, apparently, for that, so I thought that was pretty cool. Hopping on over then to Marvel, we've got X-Men issue 1. So this is a new lead X-Men series coming from Jerry Duggan, who is famously a Deadpool writer, but has since obviously moved away from that. I'm excited to see him on X-Men. Obviously, Hickman is still overseeing the universe at large, but I'll be excited to see Duggan with the X-Men. I mean, we've got X-23 on the cover there, along with Jean Grey. And so, I mean, I'm happy anytime X-23 is in any comic because I just love her. And then this won't come as a surprise to anyone that I'm suggesting this from Marvel this week. It's the Immortal Hulk issue 48. We are coming very, very close to the end now. I think, issue 50 is when Ewing is leaving and Cates will be taking over. So this has been, as I've constantly said, one of the greatest series that's come out of Marvel recently. It's definitely my favorite of this century. So pick up all of it, but also pick up issue 48 if you have been keeping up, because we're about to find out if Hulk will face the gaze of the Red Harpy. So look out for that. With non-DC and Marvel then, I'm moving over to Image, and I'm recommending Carmen, which has been a very big surprise to me. I've been picking up on this recently. It's a really crazy book, also a hell of a lot of feels as well, and it just feels very unique. The artwork is also extraordinary. That comes from the writer Gwilym March, who I believe also is the artist for it. So definitely pick that up, and all 4 seasons previously, because I know I use this a lot, but it's something special. So going through everything again, from DC, we've got Swamp Thing, issue 5, Wonder Girl, issue 2. Marvel, we've got The Immortal Hulk, issue 48, and X-Men, issue 1. And then at Image Comics, we've got Carmen, issue 5. And a new feature this week, I'm actually as well going to be recommending a sort of classic pull. And I thought, seeing as there's a new era on X-Men with Jerry Duggan taking over, I'm going to recommend something I've put up before, which is God Loves, Man Kills, which I own the deluxe edition of, the extended cut. So that's great. But yeah, God Loves Man Kills by Chris Claremont is one of the seminal X-Men comics. Just Chris Claremont gets the mutants probably more than anyone else who's ever been on them, even more than Hickman, to be honest. So, and that is, if you ask any sort of X-Men fan, what is your favorite comic, I guarantee you that's going to be somewhere on their list. So, just again, God Loves Man Kills from Chris Claremont. So, guys, what do you think of the pull list? Anything you want to add? Anything you'll be picking up?
Well, I just want to say, a good addition to the pull list is a classic pull, Tom. I like that addition. So, yes, highly recommend to anyone to read X-Men God Loves Man Kills, because it is arguably one of the finest X-Men stories ever told. And, Tom, you can't have said it any better. Claremont just gets it. There, I would say he is the best X-Men writer in history. I would say he even gets it more than the creators themselves, Mr. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. So yeah, I would love to reread that. So I might pick that up at some point.
Get the extended cut though, because it's pretty neat.
And then Swamp Thing. I had no idea actually that there was a new run. That was issue 5, so that's not that many. So I'm always a big fan of Swamp Thing. And you know what? With X-Men, I've been loving what Hickman's doing. But who's taking over X-Men?
Jerry Duggan. So he is mostly known for he's like the longest running Deadpool writer. He's also done work on Marauders and Uncanny Avengers as well. And he's teaming up with Pepe Larraz on art.
Well, Pepe Larraz, I appreciate the artwork. I've seen his stuff before. Unfamiliar with the writer though, so that'll be interesting because I don't read much Deadpool. But if Hickman's still overseeing the X universe, whatever he's doing, I'm all for it, man.
Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I think looking from it, X-Men is one of the ones I've looked at and picked up a lot in the past. Whereas obviously they had, the sort of reboot that they did recently, which made things look a lot different with Powers of X and House of X and all that kind of stuff. I suppose this again to me kind of looks like it's just then going back to the all new X-Men stuff. So I'm a bit I don't know. I could kind of look at that and feel that it's come from 2014, 15 or something. So I think the only thing with the X-Men is that you do still have this kind of repetitive nature of just, the same situations, the same sort of art style, when it did seem like they were going in a completely different direction with different designs, etc. Especially when you got Jean Grey in his or more.
Yeah, well, the Hickman stuff is still going on. So I imagine he's obviously overseen the Duggan story, so I imagine there's going to be some links there. I'm just interested to see, because like you said, it does kind of harken back to when they were just a team going around helping people, whereas recently it's just been more like Game of Thrones meets the X-Men. Yeah. And that's probably putting it mildly. Hank McCoy needs to be stopped. The Beast needs to be stopped. He's scaring me. He's been scaring me since 2013.
It's like flipping a coin, really, isn't it? Because X-Men have so many different, they'll have, X Factor, all new X-Men, the X-Men, X-Force. There's so many different titles. So then as soon as you see a new one released, you're like, okay, which route will this go? But yeah, I think the classic pulls is a good shout as well, because especially around this time, especially now the adaptations are getting, because they've kind of rinsed through a lot of the classic stuff, we are starting to see a lot of the newer stuff come through. So that, President Loki thing that we saw talked about earlier, appearing in Loki, that's quite recent, really. And the fact that then comic shops and stands are re-releasing that to tie in to the TV show and stuff is also a good reason to sort of pick those out as I guess more modern classics as well, as it gives us a chance to talk about those in which they're hey, this is appearing in that show or film. Go check it out. Actually, interestingly, is there a Black Widow issue or series at the moment? Because usually there's a kind of, Guardians is coming out, Guardians of the Galaxy's got a new run.
There's one, just not this week, unfortunately. I'm actually going to double check.
But it might have been messed up by the pandemic, I suppose. The timing might have messed up.
I think there is a tie-in comic for the movie, though.
Yeah, there usually is. There usually is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just surprised they haven't got a kind of Yelena Belova title or something like that going on. Or
not current. I imagine something like that will start running after the film comes out, a few weeks after. That's their usual thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, I think, because what I've seen from a lot of the early reactions is that Florence Pugh absolutely kills it in this film. And if anything, like, she's more the standout than Scarlett Johansson. But we'll see. Very excited to see Black Widow. People, get your tickets, because when I went to go buy my tickets, I was like, oh, there's not that many seats left now. So I have a good feeling about this film. I think this is, with the MCU coming back, the cinema is back for me. Anyway, I know Martin Scorsese might disagree, but with the MCU coming back to theaters, for me, I feel as if cinema is truly back up and running now. So very excited for that. 2 episodes left of Loki. Very excited for that as well. A lot of stuff coming. So yeah, it's what a wonderful time to be a nerd, I'd say.
It is. Yeah. It has been for a while now.
All right, so there's your news, there's your toys and your controversy, and there's your comics as well. So thank you for listening to this episode. We appreciate people coming on board every week and listening to us goof out and discuss and geek about this stuff. But if you want to keep geeking out with us, where can you do that, Tom?
Well, you can do that on Twitter at GapperBoy. So that's at GAPPERBOI, where I'll just constantly be chatting shit, to be honest. That's the best way to describe it. So if you want to come chat shit with me, or maybe tell me how I'm wrong, go on, go for it, bring it on.
How about yourself, Dave?
Tom's been brought down a peg, I think, with all these names he's been coming up with. He's just like, I'm just gonna.
Wait till next time, bro. Wait till next time.
He's not making demands for characters anymore. He's just kind of like, yeah, I know this can't happen, and I'm just making obscure demands. Yeah, you can also catch me on Twitter at David Osgar, OSGAR. You can catch me on Letterboxd at same name, where you can see all the films that I'm catching and reviewing as well. Usually put like my full thoughts on there, so you can go check that out. And if you keep an eye on freshtakehub.com, I got some projects in the pipeline. Not sure when some of them will be coming out, but one that should be out by the time this episode is out is I've done a feature on epics, the genre of film epics throughout history, and one of the last epics that we recently had. So not, like one epic film. I'm talking about like the genre of the epic, the Hollywood epic. Go check it out.
The Hollywood epic. I look forward. When's that coming out?
Should be out in the next 2 days. So like I said,
awesome.
If this is out, it's
definitely gonna check that
by the time this episode is out, it will be up.
Oh,
awesome. Cool. Awesome. And you can also find me on Twitter at SweatyJake, where, like Tom, I like to chat a lot of shit sometimes and post a lot of funny memes, and also post some really funny pictures of action figures with weird expressions. So yeah, I'm doing all the fun stuff on there. You can also catch me on Letterboxd at JCar, where I get all my film takes. And as for the show, you can find us on Twitter at Capes, Cows, Masks, and we're also on Facebook at Capes, Cows, and Masks. And if you're using Anchor, Spotify, or Apple, or Google, whatever you use to listen to us, please subscribe and follow us on there. And if you're on Apple, leave us a review and a rating. It all helps us go up in the rankings. But thank you for listening. We'll see you all next week. From myself, from Dave, from Tom, and from J. Jonah Jameson's weird expression on the toy. We'll see you all next week.